welcome to Sarah's Stamping Retreat. Today we're going to be focusing on some fun stenciling techniques, and we're going to be creating 5 cards using this gorgeous Sentimentally Yours kit from the latest Phill magazine box kit. So this is the stencil that we'll be using, and you can see it's got 4 sections, like some splatters, a kind of leafy area, some kind of music bits, and a little flower. And then we've got this huge stamp set, and it's actually got loads of different things in it, from butterfly and a dragonfly to the Eiffel Tower to hearts. You've got things to go all over. You've got this really big floral as well. And you've also got some coordinating dies that will cut some of these things out, like the Eiffel Tower, this little plane's cute. You've got some music notes, you've got the butterfly, and then you've got Just For You as well. And then you've got the paper pack, and it obviously carries on a similar theme. So you've got cut apart pieces, you've got some nice pattern papers. I really like the florals on this one. And you've got the Eiffel Tower in the corner as well. So you've got some bigger, more background designs, as well as some that would be nice focal points. And then we're back to the beginning. So you get 2 of each paper. So for my first card, I want to create an acetate card. I'm going to grab my stencil. And for this card, I want to use this kind of flourish here. So I'm going to take this down. And then I'm going to use this Tacky-when-Dry gel medium to put through it. So I'm going to grab my palette knife. I'm going to hold this down and just spread it through it like butter. And I'm going to lift that off. And it's not come out quite as crisply as I would ideally like, but I'm going to add some bits over it anyway. So I'll just make sure that I strategically place them to cover the bits that I don't want showing. I'm going to put some more in this corner. I might try a little bit less on my palette knife at a time this time, see if that works a bit better. And that worked much better, it's much crisper look. So then there are a couple of bits that have gone off the side, but I can just take them off with my kitchen paper. And then I'm just going to leave that to dry. So then I've left this to dry for a while, and you can see that it's now clear, and that's how you know that it's good to go. And so then I'm going to use some of this fab foil. It's the Deepest Darkest Crimson from Wow, and it needs to be the type of foil that you use in like a laminator or a mink machine rather than a hot foil one. And I'm just going to lay that over here, and then I'm going to press it on. And because this is tacky, then it's going to stick to that medium that we've put through. And then I'm going to repeat that on the other corner. So then we've got this really pretty foiled pattern on there. And I have to say, it does take a little bit of time for that medium to turn clear. I had time to cut out all of these, prep all the other cards. I would say it might have taken about an hour and a half, 2 hours as a guess. So it's definitely one to walk away from and come back to. So then I've got this lilac piece of cardstock that I've cut to 1 inch smaller than my card front. And I'm just going to add that on with some of these sticky specks. They're just teeny specks of glue that you can add onto your card, and because it's a dry glue, it attaches really nicely to the acetate. So I'm going to add this on, and then I'll add a white piece of the message to the back, and I've cut that just 1/8 of an inch smaller than the purple piece, so you get that border around it. So then I've cut a sentiment from the pack, and I'm going to back that with some foam tape. And I'm going to pop that across the centre of my card. And then I've got these butterflies and flowers that I've also cut from the pack. I'm going to add them on. So I'm just going to add the glue to the body of the butterflies. And then I can just trim off the edges. And then there's that card done. So then for this next card, I want to mix up a bit of paint. So I've got some white acrylic paint. I'm just going to add a bit. I'm going to use this scrap of cardstock as like a kind of temporary palette. I'm going to add some of that to there. And then I'm going to grab some of this amethyst alcohol ink from Altenew. I'm just going to add this like a drop at a time into the paint and just see how that comes out. I think it definitely needs a bit more than that. I'll add another couple of drops. I'm adding alcohol ink into an acrylic paint, so I wasn't sure whether this would work, but it seems to be doing okay. But it's quite a pale colour, so I'm just going to add some more drops in. I think that's quite a nice pale purple shade now. So I'm going to create an arch card for this, and I've used my Essential Arches from Spellbinders. So I've used this one, which is about 3.5 inches tall, to cut this, and then I'm going to glue on some of this hessian. I'm going to cut off the excess, and then I'm going to cover the whole thing with this paint that I've mixed. Then I've cut a mask with the neck size up from this. I'm going to pop that onto my card. Then I'm going to grab an acrylic block and I'm going to add some of this Wow Mixed Media embossing brush ink to it. It's just embossing ink. It's like an embossing ink refill. If you've got something like that, that would work too. I'm just going to add that onto here. So then I'm going to grab my stencil and we're going to use the music notes part this time. And I'm just going to pop it on here. I'm going to add a little bit of the embossing ink to this rounded end blending tool. And I'm just going to pounce that through the stencil on the music notes. And then I'm going to move it a bit. I'm going to do some up here. And then I'll move it again. And then I'll do a final bit down here. So then I'm going to heat emboss that with some clear embossing powder. So then I'm going to heat emboss that. So then I'm just grabbing my Dusty Concord Distress Oxide ink and just adding that round here. And you can see that that makes those music notes pop then. So then I can remove this. So then I've stamped and cut out the Eiffel Tower from the stamp set, and I also want to stamp this little happy birthday. So then I can glue that on there. And then I'm also going to glue that on there and that on there. And then there's that card finished. So then for this next card, I've got this high density modelling paste. I'm going to use this scrap piece of paper as a palette. So I'm going to pop a bit of this modelling paste on here. And then I'm going to add some of that same amethyst alcohol ink in. I'm going to go a bit more liberally with the colour because I want it to be a little bit darker. And then I'm going to add the splatter part of my stencil onto a 5x5 inch square card blank. And I'm just going to paste that through there. And I'm just going to move it round. Then we've got those cool splatters. I made far too much of this paste really. You could scrape that off and put it into a pot and it will last a while if it's in an airtight container. So now that that's dry, I've got a piece of white cardstock that's 3.5 inches square, and I'm going to add on some Dusty Concord ink. Then I'm going to grab some water on the end of a brush and I'm just going to flick that with the water just to add a little bit of texture. So then I've got a piece of darker purple cardstock to go behind it that's 1/4 inch bigger. And then I've also stamped and cut the heart and this bow. And I grab my craft knife because I also want to just cut these pieces out of the bow so that you can see through here as well. And then I'm just going to use this Sending Love and Best Wishes. So then I can add all of these elements onto my card. And then I'm going to put some foam strips behind the bow and the sentiment. And there's that card done. So for my next card, I'm going to create an A6 card. And I've got this piece of pattern paper from the pack that I've cut to the same size as my card front. And I'm just going to do some straightforward stenciling with ink. So I've got my Dusty Concord Distress Oxide ink. I'm just going to use this pattern of 3 flowers. And I'm just going to add them across my pattern paper. It's a really nice way of just adding a little bit extra to a fairly plain piece of pattern paper and just tying it into your card as well. I'm going to use this flower so you can see it's got those kind of bell-shaped flowers on it, so this will really help tie the background into the foreground. So then I've got this It's Your Special Day stamp, and I'm just going to heat emboss that onto the bottom of this piece of dark purple cardstock. And then I'm going to heat emboss that in white embossing powder. And then I'm going to cut that down. So then I'm going to glue this pattern piece onto my card front. So then I'm going to add some foam strips to the back of there. And then I'm going to add some foam strips behind the flower as well. And then I'm just going to add a sentiment on the bottom. Then that's that card finished. So then for the final card, we're going to use the splatters with Dusty Concord and Vinous Potion. And actually I'm going to use a detail blending brush just so that I can do it without worrying about going off the page. Then we've got this really fun paint splatter background just by varying those shades of purple. So in this hexagon that I used to create my card blank is about 5 inches from here to here. And then I've used one that's about 3 inches to cut this purple piece, about 2 3/4 inches to cut this piece of pattern paper. And then I've die cut this from the pack with a circle die. So I'm just going to layer those onto my card front. So then I'm going to add foam pads behind the thank you and the butterflies. These butterflies I've just stamped using the included stamps and I've coloured those in that kind of like dusky greyish purple that I've been using. And actually I was going to place that centrally, but I think it looks nicer down here, so I'm going to pop it down there. And then what I'll do is I'll bend the wings up on the butterflies and just glue them on, but just by their bodies. And then there's that card finished. Then there we've got all 5 of today's cards. I really hope you enjoyed creating them with me and using lots of different stenciling techniques. I'd love to know which is your card, and also if it's different, which is your favourite stenciling technique. If you enjoyed today's video, I'd really appreciate you clicking like below, and you can also press subscribe if you'd like to see future videos. If you press the bell button and select all, then YouTube will also notify you when I've got a new video available. All of the products that I've used for today's cards are listed in the description below, and there's also a link there to my blog where you can find a picture supply list if that helps you find what you're looking for. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to see you again soon.